So once you find yourself on the ground, start off with a few really good deep breaths. Huge inhales. Nice relaxing exhales. And let that breath start to flow through all the cells of your body, starting to energize the body, starting to help the body feel more whole. Deep, huge inhales. Nice exhales. Keep this breath flowing just as deep as we established it, as we take a moment to connect with our intention. And the intention today is all about triggers. There's these things that pop up in our life here and there that trigger us, or in other words, they make us just jump to these angry, very condensed emotions. And sometimes these pop up in the middle of nowhere. There's been times in yoga classes when somebody comes up to me afterwards, and I don't play crazy music by any means in my yoga classes, but sometimes a person will come up to me and they'll say, I hated your music today. And so that would be an example of a trigger. Also, with the political season going on right now in 2020, but there very well could be people getting either before the election, triggered by all the campaigning going on, or after the election, probably half of America will be disappointed. And who knows, that would probably be a situation of being triggered. And so then the question is, do we choose the emotions, or do we let them just come to us without any sort of choice at all? And so in other words, if you hate a president that's elected, are you willing to be miserable for the next 4 years? Because that's, in a way, a choice that you're choosing. Or back to that yoga class, are you willing to let yourself be miserable for that whole hour because you're getting triggered in that moment? And so the question today is, as things come up in our life that triggers us, what can we do to help ourselves out through it, so that we can learn the lesson that we're meant to learn from it, and so that we can, evolve and become a little bit higher, rather than living in the state of duality where there's only right, there's only wrong, and so when something wrong happens, I am just triggered and miserable in my life. And so that's the question. How can we get away from that duality? How can we come back to a state of unity and peace and bliss and joy? And so that'll be, the idea, resting on the back of our mind. As we travel into all sorts of poses today, you'll get different chances to try to breathe into tight areas of our body. So first and foremost, let's start to take the knees into the chest. With a hand on each knee, begin to rock around a little bit, left and right. Start to feel what's going on, all the tightness perhaps in the low back or in the hips. Start to feel yourself moving into those spots. Today's not necessarily a day for going super fast and rigorous, but instead it's a day to really be present with all the things that arise in our body. So as we release this left foot here, let's begin to let this right leg stretch up to the sky. We're trying to grab onto the leg however high we can comfortably reach, and start to breathe into the intensity that you're feeling in that right leg. Start to be present with it. Oftentimes our brain likes to get out of uncomfortable situations. That's like that triggering thing. We'd rather just run away and hide than be present with it. But what if those hard emotions, all they want is our presence? What if, depression or sadness for one day teaches you the lesson that you needed in that moment, that depression wanted to teach you? All it required was your simple presence. So as we're continuing to breathe here, perhaps in this moment, we're able to pull this right leg just a little bit deeper. Let's take a few more breaths, getting into that new depth. Keep breathing into it. One more huge cycle of breath in. And with our exhale, release this right leg. Feel how open it is in this moment. And then let's take the same thing off to the second side. So left leg comes up. Let's try to straighten it as much as we can. Try to pull it in and just start to be with this part of the body, breathing into it. Presence. Are we willing to be with hard emotions? If the answer is no, our body will hold onto those hard emotions. It'll get stuck in the connective tissues of our body. So instead, if hard things come up in our class today because we're stretching into those deep spots, are we willing to breathe through it now, giving it now the presence that perhaps we've never given it in the past? So another huge breath cycle, and then maybe we start to invite the leg a little bit closer for those last few breaths. See what's going on, see what's possible, what's present here. And take another good breath in. And with that exhale, now we can release. Let the bottoms of the feet touch together. The knees are starting to spread wide. And from here, as we're on our back in this supine cobbler's pose, let's grab onto each of our elbows. The elbows are right above our chest. And we're going to start, while keeping this grip of the elbows, we're going to start passing the elbows left and right. Take it at a nice slow pace. Make sure that when you're pulling the elbows to one side, for instance, if I'm pulling to the left, it's my right shoulder that's really easing into the stretch. And then when I switch sides, it's the other shoulder. So if there's anything you can do to help it out, such as lowering the angle of the elbows just slightly or raising it, make sure that you're getting into the shoulders very nicely. And keep the breath flowing. Breathing into tight spots in our body is one of those ways that we can relieve some of that tension, some of that triggering emotion that might come up. It's like, what if every situation in my life that's hard is just an invitation to see if I'm willing to breathe through it now? It's just a universal lesson. So can we have trust that the universe has good lessons for us? And that if we just open ourselves to it, it won't be quite so hard to get through it. So let's take the elbows one more time, left and right. Good. And then as we release the elbows, let's stretch the arms up overhead. We're going to reach the right hand to that space above your head. Reach it really long. And then switch it out. Left hand reaches really long. This is working into a new spot in our shoulders. Also getting a little bit into the side ribs. Just easing our body. Reaching right hand. And reaching left hand. And let's take it once more to each direction. Good. And then take the arms back up overhead, leave them there. And from here, we're going to start working through a slow motion strengthening of the legs. So the first thing we do while the legs are in cobbler's position is start pushing the feet into one another. Feel the strength of the legs. From that pressing action, now start to slide the heels close to the glutes. When you can't get them any closer, then pick the legs up, almost like a crunch. Lift the arms up and crunch, trying to reach past the toes. And then from here, as the arms reach back overhead, legs stretch up. We try to slowly lower the legs all the way down to the ground. And then we start over. So bottoms of feet touch, coming back into cobbler's pose. While they're touching, the feet are pressing into one another. Start to slide the feet in close to the glutes and then lift up. Crunch the arms up, try to reach past toes. And then arms return, legs are up to the sky, lower down. So a very slow process, but we're getting so deep into many tissues. So press, slide, lift, reach, extend, and lower. Let's take 2 more full rounds. All the way in. Feel the activation of the legs, activation of the core, and crunch. Up and lower. 1 more round. Bottoms of the feet, press, slide, crunch, reach, and lower. Amazing effort. So now from here in the arm up overhead position, take a huge inhale. With our exhale, we're going to try to roll up 1 vertebrae at a time. If you need to grab thighs or use momentum, that is okay. Eventually, we're going to end up stretching over our 2 straight legs. So give your back space and try to breathe into all the tight spots there. Keep the lungs feeling up. And with the lungs flowing like this, we're giving ourselves permission to feel, to be present, to be part of this beautiful experience. Good inhale. And then exhale, slide the hands in right by our hips. It can be flat hands or fists, whatever helps you sit up nice and tall. And from this height, we're going to start working on our neck. So first we lift up the chin. The goal is not to crunch the bones on the back, but to feel the fleshy tissue on the front of the throat stretch. And then when we bring the chin in toward the chest, we're now stretching through the back of the neck. So you can absolutely go faster or slower than me if you just want to pause in these spots. I personally am going to use my inhale to lift the chin up and exhale to lower my chin back down. So if that feels like a good speed, we'll take another few rounds. Let's take 2 more. Good. When the head comes back up to neutral, our right hand is going to reach for the outside edge of right leg. If you can't reach it while the leg is straight, you can bend it to get it there. From the reach, we're going to try, our left hand is going to be propping us up from the left side. We're going to try to lift this right leg up. The left hand can even slide behind us if we need. From this straight position in front of us, start to bend the knee out like a happy baby pose. Pull the knee super wide, getting into the hip. Lift that right leg back up. Very extended, and then continue to lower it down. Obviously, you can have that bent knee if you need to set it down. Switching the hands out, left hand picks up left foot. From here, half happy baby, bend the knee, pull the hip open. Extend the foot back up, and lower. So just like that, let's go twice more each side. Right, left. Once more each. And as you set the last one down, let the spine relax again. And maybe there's new spots that are starting to open, so try to breathe into the low back in those areas. Spine rises back up. Flip the hands around, fingers pointing away from you, and continue to walk your hands backwards until we find a nice shoulder stretch. The spine is not allowed to curl in, so instead it's nice and rigid, and we only walk the hands as far back as the shoulders are happy with opening. Another good breath in. And then exhale, hands start to walk back in. Our right foot will tuck to our right side. A little hint, if this is already bugging the knee, let the knee go super wide. That'll be more comfortable for the knee. A forward knee gets it deeper into the quad. And so from here, as we start to aim backwards, this is getting into the quadricep muscle on that right side. So maybe you can drop down to left elbow. Sometimes people can go to both elbows. Occasionally there's people that can go all the way to the ground, but if that makes your knee pop up, usually that's the sign that that might be a little bit too far for your body. So no matter what level you've come down to, see if you can scoop your tailbone under, kind of bringing it under and up like an ice cream scoop. And in that way, we can activate that quad so much deeper. So another good breath on this side. Getting into that deep area. Exhale, let it go. Take the reverse of every step that you use to get there. That'll help us come out. Free out the right leg. And we'll start to aim to the left side. Tucking left. If it needs to go wider, that's okay. Maybe we're lowering down, or maybe it's just that tailbone scoop that brings us to a good spot. For me, quadricep is one of those extremely tight muscle groups. And so this is an invitation. Can I breathe into the hard, tight things? Or do I have to just be rigid and try to back away from it? Always in yoga, if there's a pain, sharp, stabbing, throbbing, shooting, that's always a chance to get away from it. But if what you're feeling is a deep intensity, try to see if, when you're being triggered by the intensity, see if you can breathe into it. And something magical happens with the breath where breathing into it makes it less intense. Usually it's not the first breath, it's not even the second or third breath, but after a little while, you'll start to realize, oh, this isn't quite as intense as it was. And so by the breath, we're able to open up to a whole new level. So one more breath in, and then exhale. Reverse every step to get out of it. Once we're there, send both legs into a cobbler's pose. The feet are a little bit further away than normal. Relax the spine up and over. Breathe into tight spots of the low back. Now finding the fingers on the ground, extend them forward. Then from here, we start to walk the hands over to the right side. Feel how much deeper it gets into the left low back. So see if you can breathe into the intensity. Make sure you don't walk so far that you have to lift the hip up. Keep it grounded and just feel that low back. Take those deep breaths. One more cycle on this side. And we'll walk through to the other direction. Keep the hips down, reach as long as you can, and start breathing into the right low back. Find presence, one more breath in. Exhale, return forward. Take a bonus breath or two, resetting the spine to straight. And then as we walk back in, let's take our legs underneath our body for cat-cow. Start to feel the spine rounding up and down. Gentle pulsation. You can absolutely go faster or slower than me, but try to stick with the speed of your breath. Let's take 2 more rounds. And then from here, with spine back at neutral, start to take your right leg out to the right side. Once you've got yourself in that position, come up to a nice high kneeling position. Bring the right hand onto the right leg, slide it down that side. And then this left hand reaches up to the sky. If you have space that you can continue to travel over to that right side, go into that deep rib and shoulder area and take a few breaths. Breathing into that tightness. Gently easing our way up. Then the left hand is going to plant to that left side. Right hand up to the sky. And if you can lift the toes up to this kneeling half moon place, take that position. A couple of breaths right here. And then setting that foot back down, let's flow 3 times back and forth between those 2 spots. So take your time, easing into the gate pose, and then to kneeling half moon. You can go a little bit slower or a little bit faster than me, but eventually aim for 2. And 1. Good. As you finish that last one, drop this right knee down. Left leg is going to slide open. And we start off, left hand sliding down left leg, right hand up to the sky, continue to reach over. Long, long side body stretch. Feel how it's harder to breathe into this right lung right now, but see if you can continue to create space right there. Trying to create breath into the tightest spots. And then coming up, cartwheel down into the kneeling half moon. We pause a little bit longer through this first round. And then let's take our 3 cycles, traveling down, and up. 2, 1. Beautiful. Dropping this knee down. We're either going to walk our hands forward toward a kneeling plank, or we're going to lift our knees up for full plank. Either way, we're going to take a count of 10 to try to lower down slowly to the ground. So shift shoulders past fingertips, starting to lower for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. All the way down on the ground. Take Sphinx pose. Elbows are underneath us. Drag the heart forward and through to create a beautiful arch through the spine. Nice breath in. And then exhale, bring the hands underneath us. Press back to child pose, letting that spine extend really long. You feel ready for downward facing dog? Eventually, let's rise up to that place. Maybe pedaling through the legs to get some of the tightness out of those areas. We'll begin to ease our way forward. Little baby steps at a time until we're up at the top of our mat, dangling down. Maybe today we're taking hands into elbow creases and letting the low back sway, just a matter of an inch or so, left and right, very small swaying to loosen up any tightness there. Dropping the hands down. Then use the next inhale to rise all the way up, maybe an arch back, and hands it up at the heart. So from here, we'll take tree pose. Shift your weight into the left foot. Start to rotate the right leg open. Some days we take the kickstand. Other days that right foot goes to ankle, calf, or maybe thigh. No matter where you end up, try to press your standing foot into the ground. Feel that pressing to help create an extra lift up the spine. Very tall, very strong. Breathe. Imagine breathing into that standing foot, making it more steady. Another good breath in. And exhale, we can drop this right foot down. Right away, start to spread it wide. Left rotates open, climbing up if that's the case today. And continuing to breathe into the foot, spread that foot out wide, press to lift the spine up. Another good inhale. And exhale. Let's plant this left foot. We're up at the top of the mat. Take an inhale to circle the arms up, maybe a slight arch back. And exhale, forward fold all the way down. Inhale, half lift, long spine. Exhale, as the hands go back down, slide this right foot back, dropping the right knee down. Make sure the left knee doesn't go past the toes. But already here, we're going to create a little motion. So the motion goes like this. We sink forward. And then when we bring the hips back, the front leg straightens and we bow down. Going to the hip opener. And the hamstring stretch. And this will be at your own pace. I give you permission. If one of these areas wants you to pause and just breathe, absolutely do it. If that's what the body asks for, do it. Otherwise, just a slow, continuous flow back and forth. Keep breath flowing through your body either way. And take one more cycle forward and backward. And then when we're back to the start with the front bent knee, bring both hands to the inside of the foot, and we'll start playing with lizards. So some people stay up on hands, some people drop down to one or both elbows. It's up to your body how deep you take this, but find a nice intensity and imagine all the stuck emotions that might be in this area of the body. Can we breathe into it rather than letting it trigger us? Giving it space that we've never provided before. One more good inhale. Exhale, let's rise back up onto hands. The front leg will go straight. And today we're going to try to walk the hands off the left edge of that leg. Just balancing here with hands planted on that left side. This might be too much for your balance, so if that's the case, bring one hand in front and still continue to let the torso rotate to that left side. Feel how deep and intense this is in really interesting spots that maybe we don't hit that often. Maybe you're feeling this on this low right side. Maybe you're feeling it into this left leg, the outer part of the leg. So there's lots of spaces that this gets into you, but try to breathe through it. Another good breath flowing in and out. And then we take this leg underneath us. We're coming to kneeling plank or full plank. Another 10 counts to lower down. So shift forward. Here's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. From here, take your left elbow on the ground. Reach your right hand back to grab these right toes. And we'll start to pull it in for another little quad stretch here. So step one, start to pull the heel in close to the glute. So if you still don't feel much, go to step two, setting that right hip onto the ground. If you still don't feel much, step three, this right shoulder points forward, maybe the elbow points up. So just go to that spot where you have an intensity and continue to breathe into it. Another good inhale. Exhale, release this side. Grab onto second, left hand to left foot. Pull it into stretch. What if all the body wants in this moment is just to breathe into the tightness, not to resist it, not to fall away from it, just to be, even in the hard things in life, to be. So one more breath. Exhale, we release. A child pose may be nice for a little while. At any point that you'd like to come up to downward facing dog, that's also welcome. You choose when. Just like before, at some point when you feel ready, we'll make our way up to the top of the mat, the next standing forward fold. The next inhale, we'll circle the arms up to rise. Exhale, dive all the way back down, right into the second side. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, hands travel down. This time, left leg is back. Drop the knee down. And we're in that spot where we go back and forth between sinking hips forward and straightening the front leg, bowing down. So again, take this at your own pace. Back and forth. Keep the breath flowing. We'll take one more round to both shapes. When we sink back forward, we're doing lizard. Both hands are on the inside of the foot. Hips are sinking low. We can stay up on wrists or drop one or both elbows downward. Good inhale. Exhale, we come up to hands. Straighten the front leg. And from that straight leg, continue to walk the hands off that right edge of the mat. Breathe into your tightness. Breathe space. Imagine the breath opening really good things. Another good inhale. Exhale, release. Take this leg back. Kneeling plank or full plank, your choice. Once again, 10 counts to lower down. So shift forward, and here's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Beautiful. This time, planting the elbows. We're going to make the arms parallel to the top of the mat. So right arm is planted first, and then left arm is tucked behind that. The fingers are pointing to the long edges of the mat. And so from here, the right hand, continue to walk that right hand to the left side. Left hand walks to the right side. We're walking the elbows past midline until we start to feel the shoulder blades spreading away from one another on our back. If you don't really feel that action, bump your elbows up toward the top of the mat, another inch or so. I like to tuck my chin in, and then I can set my chin down on that arm without choking myself. So take a few good breaths into this area, that's deep back shoulder area of our body. Good. Start to walk the elbows back in, and then we'll switch them out. So now left hand is in front, right hand is behind, and begin to walk them off the two edges of the mat. Right hand to the right, left hand to the left. Maybe bump the elbows forward an inch. Tuck your chin in to lower the head to rest. Deep breaths, 2 more cycles. And as we continue to walk in, here we're going to head back just to sit for a moment, rolling the shoulders up, back, and down. Do another 2 rounds of that, loosening up some tension. And then if you'd like a child pose for another moment, that can feel really nice. Or downward facing dog, straight to that shape, your choice. Either way, let's start to make our way up to the top of the mat. Standing forward fold. Breathe into the tight spots. Next inhale to help us rise. With hands at our heart, shift your weight onto your left foot. Bring the right foot into the right hand behind your back. So the goal here is to try to have that right quad stretching at the same time that we're in this balance challenge. So usually what I need to do is bring my knees close together and then my tailbone gets scooped under and forward. That small action brings me into the stretch. Some people also need to travel the knee backward another inch to get really deep into it. So find yourself with this balance, a few more breaths. And know if it's really hard today, you can always go by a wall or a chair to help you out. Another good inhale. Exhale, start to release this side. And catch the left foot in the left hand behind your back, aiming for that second side. Knees closed, tailbone scoops under and forward. Maybe the knee also needs to get pulled back just a hair. And another good breath in. Exhale, release. Inhale, circle up to sky. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, hands slide down, travel to plank or kneeling plank, lowering for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. From here, right arm takes a nice 90-degree angle shape. Set it off to that right side. Right cheek goes on the ground. And then the left hand is on the floor. Press into the left hand to help the hips stack. If your shoulder is in too much, back your hips up a little bit. If this is easy and you want a little more, continue to trace your top leg back or even plant the foot behind you. Just getting to enough where the shoulder stretch is perfect for your pectoralis area. Take another good inhale. Exhale, start to lower hips down to the ground and we'll switch it out. So now left arm is at that 90-degree angle. Left cheek is down. Press into the right hand until maybe you're stacking hips. Really, it's all about the shoulder though. If the shoulder's too deep, back up. If it needs more, top leg can trace back, maybe even planting behind you. Deep inhale. Exhale, relaxing back down. Planting the hands underneath us, we can either come up to a baby cobra or a full cobra. Keep the shoulders relaxed down. Gaze over one shoulder, slight twist for the spine. Gaze over the other shoulder. Good. And child pose or downward facing dog. From here, we're going to head into pigeon pose. So if you're in the down dog, just lift your right leg up to the sky and then send the side of the right knee under and through to pigeon. Back leg scoots back. Make sure that your sacrum is level. You're not rocking onto one side or the other. Hips are even. And then we can drop down to sleeping pigeon. This is, for some people, a very relaxing pose. For other people, it's very intense. No matter what your experience is today, try to sink into it and breathe through any type of deep emotions that might arise in this shape. Like I mentioned earlier, the connective tissues can hold some of our trapped emotions. So hips are notorious because there's so much connective tissue right in this area. So keep the breath flowing. If you ever feel triggered in a yoga class, that's the biggest cue, is breathe. Keep this breath flowing. So take one more good cycle of breath in. Exhale, start to plant the hands, tuck the back toes. We're lifting up through down dog to wiggle through any of the tight spots in our body here. Keep on wiggling until you feel ready for second side, and then you'll lift left foot up, send it under and through. Keep the hips level before you start to drop down into sleeping pigeon. Is there another layer that wants to be opened? Is there any space deeper that you can allow for? Send the breath there. One more good breath in. Exhale, our last downward facing dog. Wiggle any tight spots out. And eventually we'll work our way down toward a seated place. So as we're down on the ground here, take the backs of the hands to touch right in front of you. With our inhale, we'll start to circle the hands forward. At some point, as we're continuing to lift up, the hands will need to separate. So at that point, rotate the thumbs to point behind you and continue to trace as large of a circle as the shoulders are capable of doing. Take your next inhale to start bringing the hands back up. We're reversing those steps. So the moment that the backs of the hands can touch, take them back together, facing forward and down. So easing into the shoulders, let's go for 2 more rounds. Inhale, arms rise, rotate, exhale, go down. Inhale to rise from here. Touch, exhale forward and down. One more with the breath. Beautiful. And with that release, take a moment to scan through the body. If there's any last spots that want a little stretch or two before we completely wrap up our class, feel free to head into them. Those could be seated stretches. They could be on our back, maybe taking a twist, happy baby pose. As I start to talk us through our relaxation for today, continue to move in any ways that your body is loving until you reach the point where you're comfortable to just sit and rest and breathe into your Shavasana pose, laying on the back or choosing another variation such as the feet touching together supine cobbler. So the idea that we've learned from our bodies today as we traveled through class is that when we get to the hard, tight areas in life, if we send breath there, it gets better. The funny thing is our natural reaction is to do the opposite, to start holding our breath. So the invitation as we're relaxing into our Shavasana is that I found this ease in my body because I approached hard, tight things and I breathed into it. So if I continue to breathe and relax ever deeper, ever slower, what if I continue to ease in toward a never-ending depth of relaxation? What if there is no end? If we relax to one depth today, what if there's a whole new spot tomorrow? So how deep can I go and breathe and relax today? And so as you're starting to finish up any last stretches and you're heading to your Shavasana, just keep this slow, steady, rhythmic breath flowing. And let that lead you in toward this deeper relaxation here. Begin to deepen your inhales and your exhales. Starting to introduce more movements to fingers and toes, ankles and wrists. Stretching out like we're waking up first thing in the morning. Eventually rolling over to a nice fetal position on one side. And enjoying 3 or 4 breaths until you feel like you're ready to come up to a comfortable seated place, sooner or later. So as we're up, let's join our hands together in front of our heart. And we reconnect with this idea, especially this week, as things come up that trigger us, that make us want to say, I hate that music. I hate that politic thing. I hate that insert whatever it is that arises for you. Let's see if this week we can just breathe space into it. Trust that the universe has a reason for giving that lesson to us. Receive the lesson and breathe space so that eventually we can start heading one step at a time out of such strict duality in life. So with that idea, that theme to help lead us onward to this marvelous week, let's wrap up the time we got to share together today with the sound of Om. Deep inhale now. May we be filled with light and happiness and peace. Namaste.